Welcome to the New Little Life podcast. My name is Allison. I'm a lactation consultant, a breast pump expert, and a mom of 3 little boys. Here on the podcast, we talk with real moms and experts about breastfeeding and pumping. This podcast is designed to help you feel supported by other moms who are doing exactly what you're doing, to get tips and tricks on breastfeeding, and learn how to efficiently navigate pumping while going back to work. Welcome back to the podcast. This episode I'm really excited to share with you because often when we talk with mothers, they're kind of looking back on their experience, telling us what they've learned throughout the whole journey. And my guest today is actually right in the middle of it. And she's also a teacher, which I feel like they have some of the hardest schedules to juggle with pumping and teaching students. So I'm really excited to talk with her today. Just in case you are not aware yet, I know I do mention this every once in a while on some episodes and things, but if you are a working mom and you're looking for that step-by-step guide to pumping and all of that comes with that and doing it all back to work, that's exactly what I do. I have a program called Pumping for Working Moms. It is application only, and you are welcome to schedule a call with a member of my team down below. There's a link in the show notes. You can also find the information on my website, newlittlelife.com. If you want first the knowledge to make this all work and the assistance from me, this is actually the only way that I'm working with clients one-on-one now is through this group-based program. It works really, really well for me and really, really well for the working moms because you guys are really busy. So having it in a group style like this gives us the chance to interact together and also learn on your own. I've just found it to be really successful. And the women that we've had go through this so far are amazing. It's actually been about a year. March 2022 is when we officially launched this. We have about 60 members in there now, which is amazing. And we're continuing to get more and more every month. So if that's something that you're interested in, please come and chat with me. I'd love to help and work with you if that's the support that you're looking for. Okay, let's jump into this episode today. We have our guest is Haven. She is a special education teacher and a first-time mom. She's been teaching for 11 years in rural South Central Pennsylvania, and her little daughter, Paige, is 5 months old. Welcome to the podcast, Haven.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so you're a first-time mom, and you're like right in the thick of often some of the hardest parts of pumping and milk supply. So why don't you just start us back at the beginning? What was it like kind of being pregnant and anticipating breastfeeding as a first-time mom?
So I think often, like a lot of moms, I found myself just in a situation where I was like, do you know what? I'm going to focus all my time and energy on how I'm going to have this baby. Breastfeeding, oh, that'll come. I'll figure that out. Looking back, it is definitely a regret that I have. Once I had Paige, and started breastfeeding, it was something I had a desire to do, as soon as I got pregnant. But when you want to do something, but actually doing it versus wanting to do it, that can be 2 very different things. And so I had this desire to breastfeed, knew I wanted to do it, but honestly did not prepare like I should have. So it was definitely a struggle for us at first. It did not come easy. It did not come naturally. And we definitely struggled. I knew I also would be going back to work. I knew I would have about 8 weeks off, and I definitely did not prepare enough for my pumping journey either. So for someone I'm someone that likes to be in control of things, and I like to be prepared and I like to be organized. And it's just one of those things that you hit these bumps in the road, and man, it's been a difficult journey, and I've definitely learned a lot.
I remember that same feeling as a first-time mom. The biggest hurdle in front of me seemed like getting the baby out, because that was like, whoa, that just seemed like a lot. I remember those same feelings. Like I'm really focusing a lot on, surviving pregnancy and getting this baby out that labor day, but feeding is really such a longer thing that you have to deal with down the road. What did you do anything to prepare for feeding? Or were you just going to kind of wing it? What do you think maybe looking back would have helped you?
So I did. I had one book that my sister recommended to me, and oh gosh, I don't even remember the title now. I could let you know later. I had one book that I started reading, like something about like a woman's guide to breastfeeding or something.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Um, yeah, so I did. I read that, and I'm like, okay, this seems really easy. Like, you just do it. um, so I did read that book, and of course I saw stuff on social media and would watch, different accounts, but honestly, yes, I was so silly, so focused on, oh, I have to actually have this baby, not thinking about like, oh my gosh, I have this goal. I'd love to breastfeed for a year. Like labor lasts such a short time in comparison to I have to feed this baby and keep this baby alive for a year. And my focus was just totally not there. But honestly, beyond reading that book and just being like, you know what, not even, in hindsight, not even worrying about it, or doing the preparation that I should have done. So,
So what was it like when she finally got here? What was that first part of your breastfeeding journey like?
so when we were in the hospital, she didn't have problems. She wanted to latch. She wanted to feed. We didn't have any problems like that, but I did have problems like it being very painful whenever she would nurse. I had like lipstick nipple, right? So like very shallow latch. And everything I read and the lactation consultants at the hospital were like, oh, everything looks fine, and you're in the hospital with them and they're propping 100 pillows around you. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I have to go home and do this somehow. Like, this
Mm.
is so not practical. So we definitely struggled at first. I had a lot of pain early on. Couple days in when Paige was here, we realized she had a lip tie.
Mm.
So about 2 weeks, when she was 2 weeks old, we went and had that evaluated and had that taken care of with a laser. And that definitely, after having that procedure done, that helped a lot. Pain was definitely more minimal. Had pain like the first couple seconds of her latch, and then it would be manageable. But a lot of tightness in her neck and jaw. So we did start seeing a chiropractor, and that helped.
Oh,
That
cool.
helped us a lot. And so honestly, it took just a lot of practice for both of us. It was not something that just like, oh, this is easy. You just stick her on your boob and everything's going to be fine. So big learning curve for her and I, and definitely the more we practiced, the better it got. Now, not without its struggles, and definitely there were moments and times where I would just cry and be like, I can't do this anymore. And I think probably my husband would say like struggling is an understatement, but I had a very supportive family and a very supportive husband along the way, that honestly the more we did it, the better it got. And like 6 weeks in, we were both very comfortable with it. And you finally got to the place where you're like, all right, I got this, you know?
Yeah. So 8 weeks is not a very long maternity leave. So, and you kind of said it took you the first 6 weeks to really master and figure out breastfeeding. So, did you choose to have a 8 week maternity leave, or was that kind of just what the option was for you? Talk us through the rest of your maternity leave and how you when did you start pumping, all those kind of things.
Yeah. So let me definitely get to that. So real quick, my first experience with pumping was when we were in the hospital.
Okay.
Now I had cleaned the parts and sanitized the parts, like before the baby came. Like I had everything ready. I had turned it on, but like I actually hadn't used it at all. So that might be my, some words of wisdom, like get to know your pump before you have your baby, like silly me. But we're in the hospital. The second night we're there, we have this terrible night nurse. And she's like, your baby's weight is way down. Like, if you want to be discharged tomorrow, you better start pumping colostrum and like get your baby's weight up. And she brings me this pump, doesn't tell me anything about it. And I'm like, sleep deprived, emotional,
Totally. That's, oh no.
just like a wreck. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do, like, even looking back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, this nurse was terrible. But like in the moment, you're like, oh my gosh, like I
I'll do
have to do
anything.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you tell me that about my baby, and I'm like, okay, I'll do whatever you say.
Totally.
And some of that I think is being a first time mom. But here I'm like struggling. I eventually just like gave up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do, like pumping. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm not doing this. Like, I can't figure it out. She was less than helpful even when I asked. So definitely had a rough first experience. Once we got home and my milk came in, I did pump maybe once or twice. I hated it. Like, I felt like a cow. And, I'm the kind of person who in the back of my mind, I'm like, I am an empowered, strong woman. Like, I know I can do this. And then you just feel like so degraded, or just like put down when I was pumping. And I was like, I felt just so terrible. It just wasn't a good fit. So then I'm starting to do all this research, and I'm like, oh, they make these portable pumps now. Like, that looks so more attractive than these Spectra cups and flanges. Like, so I was like, this is great. We're gonna go this route. So I got the Amani pump, and it was leaking out the bottom for me when I would use that. And I would just kind of use that if I felt like extra full and she wasn't eating.
Okay.
Just very randomly used that. And then I started thinking like, okay, well, I was going to go back to work with the Spectra. I hated the Spectra. It makes me feel like a cow. Like, now what do I do? So I did lots of research, and honestly, it's led me down this long journey that I feel like I'm still kind of in the midst of. But so I got the Willow Go, is what I settled on, and I started training my letdown. I would feed Paige on one side, I'd have the Willow Go on the other. And it was fantastic. I'm like, this is so great. I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to use this. It's going to be perfect. And, I'm like, all right, I'm ready. Like, probably, honestly, those 2 weeks before work, before I knew I was going back, I'm like, all right, I'm going to pump. I'm going to set some milk aside. I need some ounces for that first day.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, here we go. Then, the day comes where I actually go back to work and I'm totally devastated. Like, I pumped maybe like 1 or 2 ounces the entire day.
Oh.
Like, I'm not getting a letdown, like, at all, looking back now. And I'm like, I'm being a teacher. I'm totally in teacher mode. Like, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to pump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm like, I got to check my email. I got to do this. I got to do that, and I'm trying to multitask, and it's just not working, and you just have that feeling of panic. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have enough milk for Paige for tomorrow. Like, what am I going to do? And, that makes it worse. You stress out over not having milk, and the stress is making you not have milk, or not getting that let down. So definitely struggled. I stuck with the Willow Go for a little while. And honestly, so the journey became for me like, okay, how do you have a good letdown at work? Am I using the right flange size? Do I need like heat? Do I need to look at photos of Paige? Do I need to look at videos of Paige? All those things. And I was trying everything I could read and find on the internet to try to get better output. So, it was stressful. I had the best of intentions, and you can think you're so prepared. And then, it's a whole nother thing when you're actually going through it. So if anyone is facing that, know that you are not alone. It is not easy, and what works for one person might not work for you. And I think that was definitely my biggest struggle, is what is out there, what works for me, and what is going to help me get the best output.
So is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Like your baby's 5 months old now. Where are you at now in your milk supply? Have you found a good rhythm that works for you and you're able to pump enough to meet her needs while you're away from her?
Yes, I've gotten there. It took me maybe a month or two. It took a while, and I kind of went through the search of, do I have the right flange size? Do I have the right pump? I actually ended up switching pumps to a pumpables pump. I ended up going to like nothing wearable and went totally away from that, and have the pumpables liquid. The liquid flanges from
Yeah,
pumpables.
the liquid shield kit, I think they call it, but
Yes. Yeah. And honestly, it took so much trial and error. And so I think what I've learned through the whole thing is there is a light at the end of the tunnel. But honestly, the lesson that I've learned is don't try to do it yourself. you know I have drawers full of the wrong sizes of flanges and the wrong inserts, and like everything out there. I have just a drawer full of everything that's wrong. And so my encouragement would just be to don't walk through this alone. Like, reach out to other people who have been there and have been through it, because there is something out there that works for you, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Now at work, I'm pumping, 3 times a day at work. I have enough milk for Paige while she is away from me. I usually have a little bit left over at the end of the week, which is just like that nice little cushion for me. And once you find out what works, and it did take a while, it was definitely a journey for me, and making, getting into the mindset when you pump at work is a huge thing that I have had to control and be mindful of. And it's not easy because you have a lot of other things going through your mind at work.
So have you found that it's important to not work while you pump? Is that kind of how you were able to get in that letdown mindset while you're at work?
Yes, 100%. So I turn off my computer. I turn off one of the sets of lights. I totally turn away from my desk, and I flip through videos and photos on my phone of Paige, and I totally have to take a mental escape, and not think about school that day, not think about students, not think about emails, for those 15-20 minutes that I need, is a much better process for me to have a good letdown and have a better output.
What are some of the challenges that you face specifically as a special ed teacher? I know like teachers just have such a rigid schedule and you often just have students most of the day. So how have you been able to fit your pumping into your schedule and your life as a teacher?
It has definitely been challenging. There are definitely days that when I get to work, I go ahead and just pump right away when I get to work.
Yeah.
And but right before students come, and it is challenging. I'll have those days where like I just don't get started quite soon enough. I've got like kids knocking on the door as I'm trying to finish pumping. And honestly, it has taken getting a little bit creative with my schedule and with the teachers around me. They are super flexible and supportive. But if I pump right away when I get there, right before students come, that makes it, I'm kind of like, empty-ish to start the day. And then luckily lunch, I'm able to pump over my lunchtime. And I have a break for lunch and actually have some planning time in there too, which is really ideal. It gives me time that I can focus on pumping, then focus on eating, and then get back to work.
What ages of kids do you teach?
So I have a range. Most of my students are in fourth grade, but I do see anywhere from third to fifth grade throughout the day.
Have you had any interactions with students? Like, do you think they're aware that you're a pumping mom? That's a young age, but also they're old enough to kind of pick up on some of those things. I'm curious if they have noticed or if you've had any conversations with them.
Yeah, so some of them are totally clueless.
Yeah.
But yeah, like they don't even, they're like, oh, she's on the phone, or, oh, she's in it. She just, is getting ready
They're
for the
in their
day,
own little
whatever.
worlds. They're not paying attention to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do, it's very cute though. I do have two students who noticed, like, sometimes I will wash some things in my sink from pumping, and like either washing out some bottles, or like, cleaning parts and things, and they're like, Mrs. Benedict, why do you have baby bottles in the sink? So I had two students who noticed that, and they were like, oh, and we had a really neat conversation. I was like, well, I'm breastfeeding my daughter, and I have to pump while I'm at work so that I have milk to feed her the next day. And they were two girls who I knew could handle a conversation like that, and they were so sweet, and so they are amazing. They asked me, how's your daughter today? How's she doing? Can we see pictures? And so they're super super mature and supportive. And then there's others who just have no clue. So
It's funny, you're not the first teacher to say that it's usually the girls who pick up on that. And I don't think it has a lot to do with like the breastfeeding aspect. I just do think that girls tend to be notice more things and notice others a little bit more. But it's interesting that
yes,
I've had other teachers say only female students have asked me about this because
yeah,
the little boys are just like super clueless.
yeah,
But do you ever think you'd
yes,
get any
yeah.
weird kickback from parents or something I mean, I know that breastfeeding is super normal and like you're not doing anything wrong, but do you think you'd ever get any, I don't know, just awkward encounters with parents? Like, did you talk to my kid about breastfeeding or something? I don't know.
You know what? I wouldn't put it past anyone. I'm not surprised sometimes at the things that, the conversations or concerns that parents sometimes have. I would hope that parents would be supportive of it, understanding that, hey, they had children too, and at one point, they had to feed their own child, hopefully in return being understanding, that I have to do that as well. But I haven't had any unlucky run-ins yet, and we're gonna hope for the best.
Yeah, I don't think that happens very often, but I'm sure that that's a concern. I remember when I was a school nurse, sometimes the questions that the children asked me, I often was just in the back of my mind a little bit like, am I going to hear about this later? Because
Yep.
we had this converse, and I think it was probably a little more poignant for me because I got asked the really hard stuff sometimes. Um,
Right.
but it's just like always that thing where you don't know the line. But I think it's great, honestly. I think the more that especially younger kids are exposed to the normality of breastfeeding and pumping, that they grow up thinking that this is a normal part of life, which it is.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, for sure. For sure. And I hope that, it's a good message for parents. It's a good message for students too, that, because I have some parents who say like, oh, I want to be a stay-at-home mom, which I think is great and amazing. I think it's important for students to see that, but also see moms who are very successful at their own job and their own career, meanwhile still being able to have and raise children. So I think the model for students for that is really good, to know that you can have a career and you can do what you love, and you can have a family and raise a baby, while still doing what you love.
No, that's really cool. How has it been at your school, with coworkers and administration and stuff? Have they been accommodating and helpful to you in making sure you have the time and space to get this done?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. They've been super supportive. There hasn't been a question at all, for me to take the time in the morning or to take the time at the end of the day. They've been super supportive. I know there's another teacher in our building. They are gracious enough to even let her leave over her lunchtime because her baby is really close by.
Oh, cool.
Um, so they're gracious enough to even let her leave and see her baby over lunch and feed him over lunch. So I am very thankful to be in a supportive district where, that's not a question.
That's great. And honestly, they have to give you time and space to do it. But I know
Yeah.
logistically, especially for teachers, I mean, if you I have had teachers before that teach from 8 to noon. And so to get a pump break in there, they have to find someone to come in and cover your class. And that can be hard
Yeah.
for just the administration to navigate, although technically they are required to accommodate. But
Yeah.
still, I know the logistics can be challenging. Like that's a real thing that happens.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, things are going well now. I'm really happy to hear that. What are your goals for the future, or what do you anticipate this looks like for the next little while going forward?
Yeah, so my goal is definitely to make it here through to continue where I'm at through June, through the end of the school year. So, I'm pumping 3 times a day at work. I want to continue that so that we can continue breastfeeding here until I have off for the summer. Pumping is not my favorite thing. It's not something that I love. Like, props to exclusive pumpers, because that I don't think I could do it.
It's a lot.
Like, so good for them, because it is not easy, and it's not something that I love doing. But I do it for my daughter. So I would love to make it to the summer, and continue what I'm doing. Next school year, I'm hoping will be able to pump a little bit less. She'll be a year old in August, so I'm hoping to maybe continue like a morning and an evening nursing. I'm kind of hoping I won't have to pump at work next year, but that's just kind of something I'm gonna face whenever it comes. But it honestly, as much as I don't enjoy every minute of it, and the journey has been rocky at times, I think as a mom, you realize, what, I got to do this for my daughter, and I want to do this for her. And you make it happen. And I think all moms find that deep down inside of themselves. And I think it's just such a neat thing about women that, you put yourself on the back burner, to do what's best for your kids. And yeah, that's just kind of how I feel. So getting through the rest of the year, and then we're going to go from there.
Yeah, the summer will be nice too. You can kind of just breastfeed often and then kind of, like you said, reevaluate as it gets closer and figure out what you need to do. I think it's really important for moms to know that none of this has to be all or nothing. And especially once you hit that year mark, you can really play with things and find that happy medium. You can stop pumping altogether and just feed morning and night forever. You know what I mean? Like your milk will adjust. Nothing happens magical on their 1 year birthday. So sometimes we like keep going because the baby didn't know that they were supposed to stop, or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but like you should be able to cut it down pretty significantly, maybe just a lunch break pumping, and that's enough to keep up your supply so you can continue breastfeeding when you want to. And it's a fun time. And
Yeah.
but yeah, you got a few more months left, that summer vacation kind of in your mind where you can
Yes.
take your
Yes.
break. Oh,
Yeah,
that's so
for
cool.
sure. Yeah. And I will just share too, I think pumping and breastfeeding together is like not something, it's just like not, there's not a whole lot of like prevalent information out there. Like, I think your program is one of the only programs that I've run across that really focuses on like pumping and breastfeeding. There's so many accounts and so many people out there who are exclusive pumpers or just exclusively breastfeeding. And, in my mind, I kind of have, you kind of put yourself in either one of those groups. Then you go back to work and you're just like, yeah, like this is a totally different world to juggle both of them. The expectations that you have for just pumping are so different, and the expectations for just breastfeeding are so different. It's its own world for sure. And changing and adjusting my expectations for going back to work it's definitely a huge part of being successful and making it work.
I've been surprised actually, the more I'm actually working hands-on with working moms, how much of this process is like mental, you know? Like I'm not a counselor, but gosh, it's often that we're like reevaluating what the realistic expectations are, you know? And a lot of times there's not a problem. It's just how we're looking at it that looks like a problem, you know? And when you have your milk supply managed by two different things, a baby and a pump, it looks different, like you just said, than someone who's just breastfeeding or just pumping. You know, that middle ground is a really weird place to be in. I wish pumps were like you kind of thought they were. You just like put it on and push play and it just works. But often it's not. And pumping, somebody said this at a recent conference I went to. They said pumping is an art. And I've really just adopted that motto because I absolutely feel that way. And it sounds like you kind of do too. There's so many pieces that need to fall into place to get the best output. And we don't always know what those pieces are or which ones are the most important for specific people. So as we kind of wrap up, I would actually really love to know if you had any kind of final advice, especially for working moms, whether that's pumping techniques or scheduling or mindset or anything at all you kind of want to share with the working mom community.
My words of wisdom would be to find people around you who will support you and love you and cheer you on. And like you said, sometimes it is such a mindset and just such a mental game. So find the people in your life that are going to push you through the obstacles that you might face, and find other moms, find other people in your place of business that can support you, who have maybe been where you have been, and use them to help you along. You know, don't stay in a place of isolation. Reach out and talk about your struggles. More than likely, you're going to find other people who have been there too, or have had similar struggles. So definitely my last advice is, you know, find those that will love you and support you. Don't be isolated, and you can do this.
Perfect last words to end on it. And I 100% agree. I think finding people that are doing the same thing as you can really make it seem easier and just kind of give you the strength and encouragement to keep going even on the hard days.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
Well, it has been so fun to get to know you here in this episode. And I'm so impressed with your just persistent dedication to making this work. Figuring stuff out on your own and just pushing through is really hard. And I'm really impressed that at 5 months postpartum that you have found that consistent schedule and you're set well to meet your goals. I really want to say how proud I am of you that you have done this. You've worked so hard and you're getting there. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Persistence is definitely something that has been definitely so important in my journey. And there is, you know, you will get to that place where, you know, perseverance pays off. So thank you. I appreciate that.
It's been a lot of fun, Haven. We'll talk to you later.